Hello, welcome to a special edition of Inside the Birds. It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. And surprise, the Eagles in the middle of the night, late at night, on Monday night, they execute a trade with the Raiders. They send Thomas Booker IV, defensive tackle, over to the Raiders for a cornerback, Jakorian Bennett. So a very rare early camp trade that we see. But Adam, we both have looked into this, and we have some really good intel that we want to share with our readers. So why don't we get started with some of the obvious stuff first. The Jakorian Bennett is a corner. It's his third year. He was a fourth-round pick in 2023 out of Maryland. And, of course, Booker is a guy who made the team last year for the Eagles, had a really impressive camp. I thought he was doing well in camp, but the Eagles definitely had more young DTs on the rise, and so it was going to be harder for him to make it, and we'll talk about some of the developments there. But as you look at this trade, this is one of those trades where, you know, the Eagles are looking at corner, the Raiders are clearly looking at DT, and they're able to make something work out here. And the fates and the futures of these players is unknown. This is not like a starter for starter trade, but opportunity for each in a new spot.
Yeah, actually, Booker probably would have made the team. I mean, not a lock, but because you remember, he was essentially the backup nose tackle. And that's something we'll stay on the Eagles first, then we'll get to the Raiders. So it says a lot about Ty Robinson, though. Ty Robinson's the guy that they want to play a lot. We know he's not a nose tackle. Yes, he's put some weight on his frame, but that's not the scouting report. The scouting report on Ty Robinson was he was a tweener. He's not a 43N. He's more of a 3 or 5 technique. You can move him around a little bit, but he's really not a nose unless you use him a certain way. So that's something they're going to have to look at. I mean, we know we've talked about Gabe Hall. We talked about him before training camp started. He had a decent offseason. He's got great length, but he's different. He's longer than Ty Robinson. And Byron Young has this minor injury, but Byron Young is a guy that, former Raider, ironically, who they're taking a look at. And then they signed, and I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but over the last week they signed 2 street free agent young players, Jacob Sykes and Joe Evans, who we saw at training camp. Maybe they knew that maybe they knew the Raiders. Maybe they were talking to John Spytek for this trade, how he was. They know each other, they used to work with each other. Maybe this was on Howie's mind to bring some developmental players in here. But from the Eagles' standpoint, it's Ty Robinson, number 95. Was very explosive, by the way. That's his deal. He's right now, to me, he's got to be the first guy off the bench.
We'll see. We'll see, because Vic said he's swimming a little bit. I think you're right. You are right.
All are.
I know. Well, not all. I mean, as a rookie,
the backups. I know the backups.
Yeah, but I would say
Young, Hall, Sykes, Evans. Who are these guys?
Gabe's not swimming. He knows the defense, having played in it a year. You're right in that this is good for Ty Robinson. They do plan to play him. He is a rookie. He has a lot. But from a roster spot and making the team standpoint, it's better for Gabe Hall. And it really shows, from what I understand, and you had talked about this even coming out of OTAs, that Gabe was really starting to get it in the defense. We knew he was a very good athlete. We knew he needed a year of people getting on him, coaching him, and coaching him into what he needed to be. And they started to see that in OTAs, and they're seeing it continue in training camp, which is why I thought Booker, yes, I agree. If Booker had made it, it would have been, I believe, both of them. They just would have went deeper at DT. But now you look, and you've got JalenCarter, you have Jordan Davis, you have Moro Ojomo, you have your rookie Ty Robinson, and Gabe Hall. That should be enough. We've talked about how they've gone heavier at times when they had young developmental tackles, and maybe Byron Young will come on. Doesn't mean they can't keep more, but I think that is your steady 5 at the moment right now at DT, and that's pretty good. They continue to be young at this position and developmental.
Well, Hall didn't play last year, and I know Vic talked about the injury, and that's fine coming out of Baylor. But the reason why he wasn't drafted was because there were knocks on competitiveness, bringing energy to every practice, because he's got elite length.
Yep. To
play in 34. You know, he's got that, but it's going to apply himself. No, so far so good. He's got to show up. It's not a lock he makes a team. He's got to show up. He's got to continue to show up. He's a developmental player who's done nothing in the NFL yet, but he's got what you can't teach. That's elite length. And they gave him good coin last year, a practice squad guarantee. So this guy's just got to bring it. And what's funny, by the way, before we move on here, we got a little bit more to, we'll talk about Bennett. We got a lot on him. What's funny is Bennett, and Booker making the same exact cash, like literally dollar for dollar. It's $1.03 million. None of it's guaranteed, by the way. Bennett's in year 3,
Right.
and Booker's on year 2 of his 2-year deal that he when he signed with Eagles in 24. So it's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, it almost feels like an NBA trade where you had to make the salaries match too, along with the talent.
Not that it mattered. That's not why they did it, but yeah, I hear you.
I know. Interestingly, Booker only played 16% of the defensive snaps last year. So, I mean, we could sit here.
Look good though.
Yeah, he did. But my point is, we don't make too much of it because whether it's Gabe Hall, whether it's Tyrell, who knows? I mean, the main 3 guys in the rotation will start the year will be Jordan Davis, will be JalenCarter, and will be Moro Ojomo. And then everyone else will be kind of mixed in based on how they're practicing and how they're playing.
On that, by the way, the rest of the preseason games, the rest of training camp will determine whether they add a veteran. Because, last year they didn't have a veteran on the D tackle, which is they were the only NFL team to do that.
Right.
Hall, Robinson, those 2 in particular, and Byron Young, we'll see. He was obviously a 3rd-round pick, and when he was drafted, they thought pretty highly of him a couple of years ago. But he's now an Eagle, so I think D tackle in preseason game is something to watch. Yeah. I don't know that Byron Young plays because he has a minor injury, but Gabe Hall has got to show up.
100%. And for the Raiders, they went through that whole really weird ordeal with Christian Wilkins and the injury and the contract. So people may not remember this, but even though Booker is only about 300, 305-ish, he was the backup nose tackle for the Eagles. They just felt like he had the right technique and fundamentals to be able to do that if in the case of Jordan Davis getting hurt or not being available. So perhaps he can go over to the Raiders and be versatile for them and help make up for the loss of Christian Wilkins. They clearly needed a D tackle.
But man, without Wilkins, it's Adam Butler who knows the system. Patrick Graham is still there. But to be honest with you, when you look at the situation for them, they are incredibly light at D tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Tyree Wilson, the first round from 2 years ago, is going to play. They're going to line him up everywhere. He'll play inside. He'll play outside. They got a bunch of street free agents plus JJ Pegues, who was a draftee this year. So they're super light at D tackle.
Right.
So yeah, they needed to add somebody, and Booker will have a chance. Not only do they have a good chance to make it, he can get in the rotation pretty quickly there.
Oh, I would think so. Definitely. Like you said, he was also having another good camp. All right, so let's flip it. Now, the Raiders, this is different. It's not like the Raiders are blessed with great cornerback talent, but you and I both know when you have a new coach who has a template of the type of player that he likes, whether it's offense or defense, that means some guys just may not fit the mold. Remember when we joked about Eric Rowe getting traded because he wasn't Jim Schwartz's, favorite guy out of year 2? He didn't quote unquote fit the mold. But, we know Pete Carroll likes the tall, longer corners. You saw what he did with Legion of Boom in Seattle. And Jakorian Bennett has some really good athleticism, but he is a short corner. He's 5'11" on a good day.
5'10.5" at the combine. Mm-hmm. And I think you had this note last year, like Fangio, and I know Jonathan Gannon was the same way. Fangio, if I remember what you said, that didn't have a size requirement. It wasn't real big.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, I do remember. Actually, it was Gannon, but Fangio, I thought it was a couple of years ago where Gannon told the staff that he just wanted good players and didn't really have the same.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think if you look through Fangio's career too, he likes a certain kind of safety, but his corners have always varied. He's had 12 physical ones, he's had shorter ones. So, and again, this is not necessarily a guy who's going to come in and start. So I think you're just looking for talent at that position.
Right. So here's the book on Jakorian Bennett. High RAS score, relative athletic score. We've talked about that. 959. That's a really high number.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are big on that. Now he's 5'10" and 5'8" at the combine. So arms weren't terribly short, by the way. They were around 31, a little bit over 31. That's not bad. Not terrible for a corner. Combine though, speed 40, 4.3, vert 40.5, broad jump 11.1. 10-yard split, really good at 149. So the left numbers are tremendous. Now, he did admit to the media back in June that he had labrum surgery, but he's fine. He was in training camp healthy. He was running with the twos. He was definitely not going to start. It was going to be Eric Stokes and Darian Porter, speaking of tall corners, of Iowa State. Now, last year's numbers, he was playing. I guess he said his shoulders were not great, and it was in his best interest to have surgery before he got shut down for the rest of the season. He was targeted 44 times, only completed against him 23 times. So that's not bad. He started 7 out of 10 games he was healthy for. So there's very good talent here. He's shorter than you'd like. The scout that I talked to who did his area said long-term probably would be a nickel. You would see him as a nickel. But, man, he's super smart, coachable, tough, very aggressive, and twitchy.
So that's funny because I know you got a scouting report. I got a scouting report too. And I love it when we both talk to different people, but it matches up because the way this person described Jakorian to me was sort of like a shorter version of Ringo, which is, he said, is a good athlete, but he can be aggressive. He can be a little handsy. And for being such a great athlete, he's a little bit tight-hipped, which we've talked about with Keely Ringo. Not the most fluid mover at that position, because you could imagine, Adam, if he tested that way and was a fluid mover and wasn't aggressive, he probably would have been a first-round pick with that kind of athletic testing. But he's got some deficiencies to his game. He'll come in, he'll be able to compete. And the good thing for Jakorian is, Adam, I mean, clearly Vic Fangio and Howie Roseman and the powers that be want to, they're clearly not sold yet on what they have opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. So throw another body in the mix and see if something works out.
And look, by the way, the free agent list at corner has really been picked on over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's Asante Samuel Jr. who would be a starter wherever he goes. He would compete. The belief is he would be signed to be a starter wherever he goes. He's got to get cleared medically. And Kendall Fuller, he still could play. He played for Vic. The Dolphins cut him, but he played for Vic 2 years ago in Miami, so he would know the system. And then Rasul Douglas is on the next rung. That's pretty much it. Now, because the Eagles have 13 draft picks for next year, look, if they're not now the timing is interesting. They did this instead of waiting until the end of the month for the first week of September. Howie did a smart thing. If you're going to do this, do it now. Don't wait.
Yep.
And he brought him in now, and Bennett's got a chance to compete for a pretty good job here. It's kind of open here who's going to start. I mean, we'll see what happens with Bennett, and he says he's healthy, and he didn't start on the list for training camp, so we'll see what happens. But don't forget, folks, if they're not happy, Howie's not happy, Vic's not happy, you got a lot of draft picks for next year to trade for.
Yeah. This isn't the move if they're not happy. This is a move to just give you some depth and competition. This is a guy who's got to play in the preseason games. They got to evaluate him. They got to see how it goes. So looking forward to seeing that. But I agree with your point. If you're going to make an acquisition just to get somebody in to compete, as opposed to a guy who's played in the league and might be on the downside, like a Rasul Douglas who's getting up there a little bit, or a guy who may have some upside in your coaching, has the athleticism and maybe with some coaching in your coaching staff, you see the upside, then it makes more sense to go that route.
Yeah. That's pretty much where we're at with that. They'll evaluate it over the next 3.5 weeks. They'll have to make a decision. And the hope here is that from an Eagles standpoint, he looks so good. Not only is he in the mix to start, they don't feel like they have to add another corner.
Right.
That's the upside of this thing. Now, if he doesn't look good, doesn't stay healthy, or he just, he's got to learn the system very quickly. This is that we give Gardner Johnson credit, like he did one of the all-time great jobs, and that was safety. Who, by the way, was one of the best nickels in the National Football League with the Saints. He was phenomenal there. This is a different deal here. He's going to be a corner here. And as Vic says, no, he's not nickel. Nickel's DB. Nickel's nickel. Corner's corner. So we'll see what Bennett does here.
Yeah, one thing to be concerned about, Adam, with this guy Jakorian is that he, for if he's going to make this team and not be a starter, he has not played a ton of special teams.
Very little.
In his career. Just none last year, and 8% as a rookie. That really hurt, especially at that position, because we know Ringo is a good special teams player. So at very least, Ringo's got that if he doesn't win out the starting job. That's just something to keep in mind as we get closer to the 53.
They need him to play corner, man. They have desperate times call for desperate measures. But again, they didn't wait. They didn't wait till the end of the month, which to me would have been a mistake.
Right.
How could it? The way that Vic wants if you don't know the defense, you're coming in right at the start of the season. It's really hard.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard.
Definitely. All right, great stuff. That is the intel that we have for you on this trade. That's going to do it. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for watching a special edition of Inside the Birds.